If you're a leader, you know that handling criticism isn't just a skill, it's pretty much essential for survival and growth. But what do you do when that feedback feels less like a helpful gift and more like a personal attack? How do you stay strong without just shutting everyone out? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. Together, we're going to build what I call the diamond shield, a mindset really, and a set of tools to turn even the harshest criticism into your single greatest asset. Let's get into it. You know, the higher you climb in your career, the stronger the winds get, and the more bricks of criticism are going to get thrown your way. It's just a fact. Now, a fragile mindset, that's going to shatter under the pressure. But look, this isn't about learning how to just grit your teeth and endure the attacks. It's about learning how to catch those very bricks and use them to build the foundation of your success. So here's our game plan for this journey. First, we're going to dive into the biology of why criticism literally physically hurts. Then we'll talk about how to actually open yourself up to feedback that's meant to help. From there, we'll switch gears and learn how to deflect unfair attacks with skill and precision. And finally, we'll put it all together and show you how to win the most important battle of all, the one that's going on inside your own head. Okay, let's start by understanding where the pain even comes from. And I want to be clear, it's not just in your head. It's a very real biological thing that starts deep, deep inside your brain. Have you ever gotten some tough feedback and suddenly your heart is racing, your face gets hot, maybe your ears even start ringing a little? Yeah, that's a universal experience. And the reason it feels like a punch to the gut is because as far as your brain is concerned, it kind of is. You know, the science behind this is absolutely fascinating. When you get hit with a harsh critique, your brain's little alarm center, the amygdala, it processes that social threat exactly like it would a physical one. A saber-toothed tiger, a tough performance review. To the amygdala, it's all danger. So it triggers the classic fight or flight response. Your gut instinct is either to lash out, to fight, or to just withdraw and avoid the whole situation. That's flight. Now, feeling that urge, totally normal. But acting on that raw impulse, that's where leaders get into trouble. So the key here is to develop a new mindset. I like to call it mining gold from garbage. Just imagine every piece of criticism, no matter how nasty, is a little nugget of gold wrapped in a big ol' pile of garbage. The garbage is the harsh tone, the personal jabs, the unfair delivery. That's the part that hurts. But somewhere inside is the gold, the core data, the little insight into an area where you can actually get better. Your job is to mentally put on some gloves, toss the garbage aside, and pocket that gold. All right, with that gold mining mindset in place, let's talk about how to handle feedback that's actually meant to be constructive. This requires a totally different approach, one I call the safe harbor technique. I want you to picture this for a second. The person giving you feedback is like a ship, and their information is valuable cargo. You are the harbor. Now, if you react defensively, with a stormy face, a bunch of excuses, or by arguing, you're creating a dangerous harbor. It's full of rocks and high waves. And guess what? That ship is going to turn right around and never, ever come back. But if you create a calm, safe harbor just by listening, people will feel safe and they'll bring you that valuable cargo again and again. So how do you create this safe harbor? It really comes down to 4 key steps. First, the 30-second rule. Just listen. Don't interrupt for at least 30 seconds. This helps you control that initial defensive spark. Second, validate their intent. Start by acknowledging why they're there. Say something like, "Thank you for caring enough to bring this to me." Third, use a disarming inquiry. Ask open-ended questions to really understand, like, "Can you tell me more about that?" And finally, and this one is so important, close the loop. After you've had time to process and act on the feedback, go back and tell them what you did. It shows you listened, and it shows you valued what they had to say. But what about when the feedback isn't well-intentioned? What about when it's just a nasty, unfair attack? For this, we don't need a harbor, we need a martial art. So welcome to the dojo of verbal Aikido. You know, the philosophy behind the martial art of Aikido is, well, it's profound. You don't meet force with more force. You don't just stand there and take the hit either. Instead, you blend with the attacker's energy and you gracefully redirect it. In a conversation, this means you don't argue back, and you definitely don't absorb the insult. You learn to nimbly redirect the force of their words. So in your verbal Aikido toolkit, you've got 3 core techniques. There's fogging, for when you're dealing with those big, broad generalizations. There's negative inquiry, to de-escalate someone who's really emotional. And then there's the circuit breaker, for when a line has been crossed and you just need to end the conversation. Let's start with fogging. Say someone makes a huge accusation, like, "You're always late." They are just waiting for you to argue. But instead, You agree with a tiny, specific part of the truth. You might say, "You're right, I was late twice this week." See what you did? You didn't accept the label, always late, but you owned the specific fact. It's like they're trying to punch you, but you turn into fog. Their force has nowhere to land. Okay, next up is negative inquiry. Think about it. When someone is seeing red, their logical brain has basically checked out for the day. Yelling calm down at them is just throwing fuel on the fire. So instead, you ask a specific logical question that forces them to think. If they're yelling, "This whole project is a complete disaster," you stay calm and ask, "I hear your frustration. What's the single biggest obstacle you see right now?" That question requires their analytical brain to switch back on, and you'll feel the emotion in the room just instantly drop. And finally, we have this circuit breaker. This is your emergency stop button. Remember, you are there to contribute your skills, not to be a punching bag. When criticism turns into personal insults, harassment, or just plain old profanity, you have to set a firm boundary. You calmly state that the language is not acceptable and that you're happy to continue the conversation when it can be respectful. This isn't weakness, it's the ultimate form of self-respect. All right, let's bring all this theory into the real world. Because it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing entirely to perform under pressure. So let's step into a high-stakes scenario, the stormy meeting, and see how this all plays out in real time. I want you to really focus on the inner game here. So imagine you're in a big meeting and a rival publicly calls your plan ridiculous. Inside, for those first 5 seconds, it's a hurricane. You want to scream. But on the outside, total silence, a deep breath, a neutral face. Then, from seconds 6 to 10, your mental filter kicks in. Okay, calm down. This is a test. He's attacking the plan, not me. And on the outside, you manage a slight smile, you hold direct eye contact. Finally, you respond. Inside, you're being strategic, but on the outside, your voice is perfectly calm as you deploy negative inquiry. Ignoring the personal remarks for a moment, what specific part of the plan do you find unworkable? Just like that, you've masterfully won the moment without ever raising your voice. Now, mastery like that doesn't just happen by magic. You can't wait until you're in the middle of an attack to decide how you're going to react. You have to build up your immunity beforehand. You need what I call a mental vaccine. This is all about proactively training your mind, rehearsing your responses, so that when the pressure is on, your best self shows up automatically. Here is a super simple but incredibly powerful checklist you can start using literally today. 3 no's and 3 yeses. First, no immediate buts or excuses. Instead, yes to a 3-second pause to let that initial emotion pass. Second, no taking it as a personal insult. Instead, yes to that mine for gold mindset. And third, no explaining yourself when no one asked you to. Instead, yes to asking clarifying questions like, "Tell me more." So, when you boil it all down, what does it come to? I think it's this simple, powerful philosophy for growth. Listen softly, with an open heart. Advise sharply, with clarity and precision. And receive criticism strongly, with unbreakable inner strength. The final question isn't whether criticism is going to come your way, because trust me, it will. The real question is, will you let it shatter you like glass, or will you use its pressure to forge your own shield of diamond?